Good morning, and let's provide a little context for this video. In this video, I'm simply just going to give a small rant to the Paragon the Overprime community. It's a small one, don't get me wrong, but people just need to calm down. I'm not the most active in the Paragon the Overprime Discord because their official Discord is where they post all their news, so I pay attention to the announcements, but the people that talk in there, they're very vocal about things they don't like. That seems to be about it. What a patch is going through for the Wukong release. And obviously Wukong seems strong. It's Wukong. This video is being recorded the day before he releases. And as we're getting a view of his kit, it is strong. I will not deny that. But people are like extremely terrified of him when we haven't got to play him yet. He might be really strong. We don't know. But just to assume that he's gonna be broken, we don't need to jump the gun. The patch isn't out yet. We'll see his scaling. We'll see how well he does damage. We'll see how well he does damage to turrets, because he does damage to turrets, which is crazy in its own right. But besides the character, I've noticed a lot of people talking about the mage changes. So for this specific patch, when this video is being made, what Soul Eve did was they nerfed all of the base DPS of the mages, but up the scaling of them, so that way later on in the game, the items that the mages buy are more effective. So the biggest example that comes to the top of my mind is Countess Ultimate used to do 340 damage. That's not the exact number, but we're just going off of theory here, or going off of the comparison. It does 340 damage. That's what it was beforehand. Now it, let's say, does only 220. So, you lose 120 damage there. But instead of scaling off of 100 of your AP in the previous version, it now scales off 125% with the new version. So you just don't nuke with items without, you don't nuke with mages without needing items. You need items now to do damage. And people are freaking out like, oh, they didn't need to nerf mages. The nerfing mages seems like such a bad idea. It's like, no, not really. At this point in the game's life cycle, mages were strong. I'm not going to deny that. But they were so strong, people were building tank items and still doing a lot of damage. Less than building full DPS. But they would still do so much damage because of how high those base numbers were. So people would just not build DPS items. They'd build items like Pendant of Confinement. Speaking of Pendant of Confinement, an item that gets nerfed at this point in the game. What it used to do was after using an ability, after using a skill, your next auto attack fires an AoE shot or melee attack that does a shockwave as 150 damage and slows. Pretty strong, and it gives you mana. Some mages would build it so they could keep spamming their spells. But it gave you magic resistance as well. So a really good mage item. But it didn't give you any DPS outside of the passive. So people would just build that first in the mid lane because it was really good for defensive stats as well as the aggressive passive. Now what they did was they made it so that after a skill used, DPS comes up every 10 seconds, not 5. So it's much longer in between uses of it. And it does 60 damage on ranged and 120 on melee. So they turned a tank item and turned it into a better tank item. They removed the range usage of it. They made it more suited for the role the item was intended for. And people are like, oh, Pendant of Confinement's ruined. No one's going to use it. It's like, no, nobody's going to use it because the mages aren't going to use it anymore. The people that were intended to use it, Severa, Kwang, Feng Mao, if he really wanted to, maybe not the best options, but like the people that were supposed to use it could still use it. It's still a good item. It's just not broken. It's not the item that everyone can just pick up and use and win any fight with because I just picked it first. And just to date this video, because right now, obviously it's not going to mean too terribly much, but if and hopefully if Paragon the Overprime is still up year 2, 3 later, I want this video to be clear when it was made. This is just over a month into early access. The game has been out a month and 10 days, about, roughly. And people are panicking over the first patch, the first real patch. Because we got an early patch in the early access life cycle. But that was more just like here, let's give an update while the game's out. Because we had some ideas that we wanted to do. And we didn't want to wait too long to throw it out there. So they did, which was the winter event, which was cool and awesome. And people also... That was a really good patch. But this is the first real patch where they did heavy balancing. They did heavy talk about, like, the developers talked about what they wanted to do. And it was the first real big patch. And it's the first one. Like, come on, people, be patient. Just over a month in, the first big patch, and people are like, oh, this will ruin the game with Wukong being added. Oh, mages are getting shafted. Might as well just take another ADC into the mid lane. Oh, items are being ruined now. Like, you gotta give Soul Eve, the developers of Paragon, the Overprime, time to test stuff. It's early access. The game's not even fully released yet. It's probably gonna come with console. Don't quote me on that unless I'm right. Then quote me on that. But Paragon the Overprime is trying to be its own thing. Yes, it takes Paragon assets. Yes, it takes ideas from it and runs with it. But it's trying to be its own thing. And Soul Eve doesn't get praised enough. Like... I know there's the For the Minions, and then there's the Paragon podcast. The Paragon Partner podcast, I think, is what it is, or whatever. The Paragon Prime Thoughtcast, whatever. There are multiple podcasts where they'll talk about, like, good things Soul Eve does. But in this patch where they're nerfing mages so that way they're less early game and more mid to late game, nerfing items so they're intended for the role that they are, and bringing in Wukong, and all these nervous things people are doing, no one talked about, I don't see it, no one's talking about how Soul Eve brought up the issues people had. Snowballing was an issue. Okay, well, kills are now worth less XP. That's in this patch. People are able to leave lane and not feel punished for it. Well, portals are now 2 minutes instead of 1 minute, and sprint speed is reduced by 10%. Awesome, that's another thing. Tion's not pushing fast enough? Well, they increase Tion speed, and Tions hit other Tions really hard. They're a lot harder now. I think it's like double damage for ranged and cannon minions, but melees do like 4 times now, which is crazy. So they're making it faster paced in the minions and making minions more important, which is what people wanted, and slowing down the ability to just gank willy-nilly without any punishment. So they're punishing lame ganks. So if a mid laner leaves lane, goes to duo lane, gets nothing from it, by the time they come back to lane, they should have lost something. That's what this patch is also including. Yet it was all released at midnight, so not many people have had the chance to talk about it. But from what I've seen in the Discord, no one's talked about the good things they're adding. They're adding new UI. They're adding draft mode to custom games. Like, Soul Eve pays attention to the community. It really does. It really does. Early on, people were talking about how the prices were outrageous, and they were. So what did Soul Eve do? They refund for anybody that bought anything. They refunded the costs and then they reduced the prices by 30%. So something that costs $10 now only costs $7. And then if you did spend $10, you got $3 back. Like, Soul Eve pays attention. It knows what its community wants. But we're so early in a game's life cycle, it's barely made progress. It's barely had time to gather data, and it knows what's going on. Just people aren't patient. People were talking about before the whole big timeline and roadmap was released, like, oh, where's our roadmap? Oh, where's our plans? Oh, where's all this information? The game was released in December, early access was released in December, going into the Christmas season, going into New Year's, going into vacation. Like, give developers time to rest. They're putting so much effort into this. From closed beta test 2 back in early May, April of 2022 to November of 2022, so 6-7 months out, they revamped the entire map. They scrapped all of closed beta test 2's map and revamped it to what we have now in early access and probably into final release. Like, you don't just do that for a game you're kind of, like, considering. You don't do that for a game that's like, it's a fun little passion project. No, they're putting real effort into this. The winter map, again, retextures instead of just, making the ground look a little frosty. The outsides of the map are frosty. The river, the water flowing in the map, for those that don't even realize it, is actually ice. They retextured so much. And in the developer update, going into the end of December, beginning of January, they mentioned how they wanted to do more. They wanted to revamp how the Tions look. They wanted to revamp the inhibitors, the turrets. They wanted to do more, but time constraints just didn't let them. Soliv is trying. They really are. But they're human. Everyone is. So they're not perfect. They make mistakes, but we can't just bash them for the small ones. If the mage nerf doesn't work out well and mages feel too underpowered, I can guarantee you that they're going to reverse it, or at least find another way to make it better. I just want Paragon the Overprime to succeed. But the community is so hellbent on pointing out all of its flaws and only focusing on them, it feels like. Again, not everyone in the community, God forbid, I don't want to generalize, but like there's just very vocal people that only talk about the negatives, and I don't like that. I want this game to succeed so badly. I want to be a channel, though I'm more focused on Twitch than I'm on YouTube. I want this channel to be a showcase of what Soliv does right. A sort of just vocal minority for now that this game does amazing thing. It does amazing work. Soliv's trying. They're doing their best. They promised one character a month, with every third being a unique character. I don't know when, I don't know what they promised it for, but they already broke that promise by releasing Wukong in January, and then 2 original Paragon characters, and then an original Overprime character, and then 2 Paragon, then 2 Paragon, then an original Overprime. Like, they're going above and beyond. Hold on, I'm gonna look this up right a fucking way. It's late enough in the YouTube video where I won't get demonetized. I don't care about monetization anyway, because nobody watches these enough for it to matter. How many characters are they dropping within the first half of the 2023 year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're dropping 9 characters in 6 months. Yes, they're Paragon. A few of these are, from Paragon, so you don't have to work on them too terribly much. But that's still 9 characters for a game in early access before it even releases. This might not be their consistent schedule, but they have it. They're showing that they're putting the work in. They're trying to get content out. It's just the first month was slow. So people are like, where's our progress? Where's our info? Where? It's like, give them a chance to rest. And something tells me that once Adele, the character for June, my birthday month, gets released, there might be a small break. I don't know. Nope. I've got no insider information. But if that happens, let Soliv take a break. They've put so much effort into this sort of thing. And if they want to do more, by all regards, praise them for that. And I'm not saying Soliv makes no mistakes. God, there's some things that could be improved. But I don't want to showcase those, because too many people showcase that. You could find other channels that talk about, like, oh, Soliv does this wrong. Oh, Paragon the Overprime does this wrong. It's so hard to find, like, praising of games these days. So, that's a rant from me. Be patient with developers. They're humans too, and they're trying. It might not always work out, but they're trying. They took their own internal statistics, which they need time to gather, by the way. It's not something you can just get in a day. They took internal statistics and community outcry, and like, you know what? What can we do with this? Let's try and see if this works or doesn't. So, as I put an ending to this rant, I just want to go out with my usual. I want Paragon the Overprime to succeed, and I think the best way to do that is you sharing it with more people. If somebody enjoys something like Overwatch, share it with them. If they enjoy Modern Warfare 2, hell, share it with them. There's probably your friend, your friend probably would enjoy Paragon. All you need to do is just give them time to learn. And if you don't even know what Paragon the Overprime is, I'd recommend looking into it. It's a very fun game. it's very fast-paced, and I'm excited to see this game progress from here. It's up to the content creators to help share this game to people, and then people that they share it to need to share it to more. This is a game that just needs to be shared more, and that's what I'm hoping this does. I might not have a loud voice right now, but I'm gonna shout it to whoever I can, and then hopefully they can shout it from there. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and don't forget to share Paragon the Overprime. I want this game to succeed. It's so fun, and I think a lot of people would enjoy it too. So with that, I will see you guys again later. Bye-bye!